things which would be, in which we would require help from others, and which would, in other cases, we might not even be able to make them a part of our lives. So our independent life, our ability to go about doing the things that we want to do is very much affected by whether our eyesight is okay or not. And probably because I'm getting on in years, I always think that it is important to think about some of these features that in a younger person, maybe you might not have issues with this, but we know that one of the things that deteriorates with age is our vision or our capacity to see. And with that in mind, I think that today's topic, which I would like once again to recognize one of the distributors who suggested that we should include it in our cycle of topics, as a very excellent choice, because I had not actually thought about it myself. You can see how absent-minded one can be about something so crucial. So thank you very much to you distributors who will help me sometimes when there's an oversight in our cycle of training and talking about our products. So our eyes have many important functions. I can only mention a few, but I'm sure you can think of very many. I already spoke about allowing us to live, go about our things independently. Our eyes, of course, help us to collect information and data from our surroundings. Our eyes even play a role in our communication, because a lot of our non-verbal communication goes on through our eyes. And that is why poetically the eyes have been called the windows of the soul, because we can express a lot just by the looks in our eyes. So the eye, by the way, is an extension of the brain, and there's a direct connection between the eyes and the brain itself. In fact, it's as if the eyes are downstairs and the brains are upstairs. And then linking the two of them like stairs is the optic nerve. That is the nerve that carries the information coming from the eye to the brain and from the brain to the eye. So of course, as I said, this is very important because we collect the majority of the data from our surroundings using our eyes. And this information is quickly relayed to our brains, where it is interpreted, and our reactions or our responses will be sent back. So the eye, for example, will tell us about our position in space. Am I up or down? Am I moving or am I standing? From our eyes, we can tell what time of day it is, because our eyes will be able to tell there is more light now, there is less light, maybe it's cloudy, maybe it's evening, it's getting dark. Also, our eyes help us to identify things. So this and many other things are what our eyes do for us. And I think that then we really should be concerned about taking care of them, maintaining and protecting them from harm. So when you think about protecting them and maintaining them, the first thing we think about is the eyelids. So our eyes have lids, the flap of skin that is above our eyes when they are open, but that can close over our eyes, either to protect them or when we are sleeping. Because when we are sleeping, we need to cut off the light that might disturb us when you're sleeping. And that way, the eyelids will play a role by covering our eyes. But in addition to that, the eyelids contain glands. Glands are little pouches that will produce different things. In the case of the glands in our eyelids, some groups of them produce water or tears. The water from the eyes, they're salty, that we refer to as tears, whose responsibility is to cleanse our eyes. The other glands in the eyelids produce an oil-based substance which lubricates our eyes. So both of these are very important, both the tears and the oil that lubricates our eyes, because our eyes are very delicate, but they are also very exposed. Think about it. This is a protrusion of our brain that is actually on the surface of our skin on our face. So if you think that a part of our brains is actually on the surface of the skin, it is very delicate. And that means that we have to protect them not only from physical harm, but also from dirt particles, also from dryness, because they can become quite dry since they're exposed to the atmosphere, and even from irritation, let us say from exposure to particles, from exposure to chemicals in the air, smoke, things like that. And all these things from which the eyelids protect our eyes can actually adversely affect our eyesight. So let us turn our attention then now to some of the dangers to our eyes and our eyesight. Of course, these are various, but just to start with the fact that anything that causes our tissues to be inflamed or our blood and blood vessels to have problems is going to adversely affect our eyesight, especially the part of the eye that is called the retina. So the retina, as you remember probably from your high school biology, is the parts of the eye that contains the light receiving and processing organs, little organs. So the retina is very, very important and crucial for eyesight. It has got a lot of blood vessels in it because it requires a lot of a very good blood supply to supply our eyes with the energy and generally the circulation, things like energy, things like taking away the byproducts and so on. So as with any organelle or organ, when it is a very active and important one, we always have a high blood supply going to it. And this is the same with the retina of the eye and the eye in general, but more especially the retina because it's the one actually which is directly concerned with eyesight. So if there is anything that is bringing about problems to do with blood or blood vessels, let us say something that causes the blood vessels to be damaged or the quality of the blood to be dropped or the vessels to be inflamed, then the eye and especially the retina is going to be adversely affected. So for that reason, poor nutrition will be at the top of our list of dangers to our eye and eyesight, because we know that there are certain foods that are available to us now. For example, we have junk foods, foods which have got no real nutritional value, and excessively refined foods which have a lot of their nutrients stripped away. So these types of foods actually are what drives chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation in our bodies. Because I think, as I've mentioned before, but we'll often repeat today and always, inflammation is a normal part of our reaction and healing any injuries in our bodies. But it is supposed to be something that happens, the healing takes place, and the inflammation is resolved. Unfortunately, there's such a thing as chronic systemic inflammation, which means that generally there is this inflammatory reaction is ongoing. And that leads to destruction of our tissues, especially the delicate tissues, like the small blood vessels that you find in places like the kidney or the eye and so on. So any food stuff that causes or drives inflammation is going to be an enemy of our eyesight. And so if we don't have enough reasons to eliminate junk food from our diet or excessively refined food from our diet, then this is one more reason to protect our eyes and eyesight. And as I mentioned before, there are certain illnesses that are driven by this type of diet that directly contribute to a lot of the eyesight loss that is currently being observed. So moving from poor nutrition, we go on to harsh light. Of course, our eyes are supposed to receive and process light, but habitually exposing our eyes to harsh glare. So for instance, if you are on the beach and it's the middle of the day and you're walking looking at the white sand, after a while you start feeling uncomfortable in your eyes, and that is why often people will put on dark glasses to eliminate some of the glare. If you are in the colder regions where there is snow and you are spending a lot of time maybe working or operating on the snow, after a while the glare from the snow also is a harsh one that can affect eyesight and can contribute to problems such as cataracts, migraines, and so on. So we can avoid this if we are exposed to it. Another thing that we can also take care of is avoid sleeping with lights on. It is best to sleep with very low lights or in as much of darkness as we can achieve, because it improves the quality of our sleep, but also protects our eyes. Then we should train children. I know that there are children who are sometimes afraid of sleeping in the dark. So maybe what we can do is have a low light or have a light in the corridor, which once they are fast asleep, we can then switch off because remember that some of these problems can start early in our life and just compound themselves and lead to early aging of our eye function, and can lead to progressive loss of vision. So avoiding harsh lights. The normal light is okay because that does not cause harm, but I'm speaking of harsh glaring light that can sometimes be there, especially in the middle of the day here in Africa, where we can have a very bright sunlight, maybe from the hours of 10 o'clock to around 3 o'clock. The glare can be quite harsh. Then we go on to the third point that I have here, and that is lack of exercise for the muscles of our eyes. There are parts of our eyes that are dependent on muscles. For example, the lens, which refracts light inside our eyeball. So this one is governed by certain muscles. And what we are supposed to do to help our lens to continue working properly is to be in the habit of blinking regularly, because the blinking impulse actually causes the oil and the tears to cleanse and lubricate the surface of our eyes. So if we notice maybe we are not in the habit of blinking for whatever reason, we should try to remember that this is an important function. If, for example, we are focusing excessively, like let's say we are, as I am now, staring at a screen continuously, we should take breaks every now and then so that we lose our focus and then return our focus to what we are doing, because this helps us to maintain the flexibility of the lens inside our eyes. So by focusing close and then focusing far away, looking away from your work and maybe looking out of the window or looking around, this allows the muscles that move the lens of the eye, either pulling it away or relaxing it, to function well, and that way also helping to have good vision. We can also follow movement. So for example, looking from side to side or following the path of an insect or a bird that is flying. This helps with moving of our eyes, and eye movement is an important part of eyesight. So that is why the third point there is to make sure that the muscles that are inside our eyes are being exercised by habitually, maybe just for a few moments, changing where we are looking from side to side, looking up and down, and focusing far away and close. All these are different ways in which our eyes are supposed to move. And if we don't exercise this, then what we find is that with time, our lens might become less and less flexible, and thereby our eyesight can start deteriorating. Then another important point about dangers to our eyesight is diabetes and pre-diabetes. So this illness is one which is always, we are always commenting about it. And this is because sometimes people just say that, oh, I have sugar diabetes, or I have pre-diabetes, it runs in my family, and well, I'm taking medication and so on. But what I really would like to emphasize this evening is that diabetes has got far-reaching consequences that unfortunately can destroy a lot of important organs in our bodies and slowly reduce the quality of our lives before eventually killing us. But by the time we die of its effects, it can have blinded us, destroyed our kidneys, destroyed our brain even. So please always remember that diabetes is not a simple thing that we can just say, oh, I'm taking my shots for diabetes and it's going on okay. Because you might be taking your shots, but the effects of the illness could actually be continuing inside your body. And you might be seeing that your vision is becoming blurred, your kidneys are lower and lower percentage of function on your kidney, and so on. So I want to emphasize very much that if you have a family history of diabetes, or if you've already been diagnosed with pre-diabetes or diabetes, please Whether it is yourself or people in your family or your circle of influence, tell them about the products that we have, the protocol we have that helps to resolve diabetes, because this is an illness that can actually be reversed so that we avoid all this damage. And one of the damage which is of interest for us this evening is the loss of eyesight. And this is because one of the effects of diabetes is to damage the retina. Remember I mentioned the retina before? Is the part of the eye that has light-sensitive cells, the cells which actually receive the messages of light from around us and relay. That message is then relayed to the brain. Now, if the retina is getting damaged, either because of the effects of diabetes or of high blood pressure, which I'll mention next, then we are going to progressively lose our vision, and it can actually end in blindness. So diabetes is not something to be content to live with. We should actually make every effort to reverse it and resolve it. So then diabetes is also linked to illnesses like glaucoma, where there's a buildup of pressure inside the eye. So just to emphasize that these problems and actually blindness that is linked to diabetes or loss of vision, that is, you are not yet blind, but your vision is now not as good as it was before. One of the leading causes of that is actually this diabetes. And the second leading cause of eye problems is high blood pressure, which is my fifth point of dangers to our eyesight. So high blood pressure is another illness that leads to deterioration of the eyesight. And this is because when there is high blood pressure, the small blood vessels that supply the retina and other parts of the eye and even the kidney and so on will start cracking because they are very fine. These blood vessels, they're very small, they're called capillaries. So when they start cracking, they are going to, a little bit of blood is going to leak out of them. And the eye is supposed to be clear so that light can travel straight through the eye to the retina. If there's any blood that is leaking or any fluids that are leaking into the eye from damaged blood vessels, then of course our eyesight is going to deteriorate. So again, high blood pressure is a condition that can actually be reversed, and but we should be aware of our protocol for high blood pressure, which helps with the lifestyle changes to reverse its effects, including that of saving our eyesight and many other problems that are actually linked to high blood pressure. So reduced blood flow to parts of the optic nerve can actually can cause damage to those nerves and the transmission of the visual messages from the retina to the brain. So the reduced blood flow can be as a result either of the blood pressure damaging the vessels or the vessels themselves becoming inflamed and not able to the volume of blood that is supposed to go there. So we also know that high blood pressure is linked to something like stroke, and stroke can actually also be a cause of blindness because remember that the brain and the eyes are in very close association. So again, here, as with the previous point of diabetes, we have got a protocol which we recommend for people to use, and also some lifestyle changes and dietary changes that they can use in order to normalize their blood pressure and avoid all these issues. Because it is another condition which people become comfortable living with and saying, yeah, I'm taking my medication, so it is okay. No, it is not okay. Resolve the problem so it is not there doing it's nasty work as you think that you are okay. Then the next point is eye strain. So eye strain is when for prolonged periods we stay focused. As I mentioned before, maybe we are focusing on our work because it is work that requires very focused attention. It can lead to a problem with our eyesight, for example, short sight, or it can lead to eye strain. And we should, so as I mentioned before, we should take breaks so that we don't overstrain our eyes. The break does not have to be for long, but periodically looking away from what we are doing to avoid the eye muscles from spasming and allowing the lens to contract and relax and thereby keep its flexibility. So frequent eye strain, if we frequently strain our eyes without taking breaks, what can happen is that our eyesight will eventually deteriorate. Another cause of eye strain is the blue light on screens. So if we are working with screens for long hours, then we should have filters for our screens. And if we spend long periods, maybe in bright light, like in the sun, in the glaring sun, then we can wear a wide-brimmed hat or cap to protect our eyes if we are going to be exposed for a prolonged period. Because with these types of problems, the amount of time spent under the adverse condition actually add up and can worsen the problem. Then the next one is maybe mainly for ladies. Some of the makeup that we put on our eyes, for example, mascara and eyeliner, which is usually applied very right on the eyelids. Things like artificial eyelashes can be problematic if we do not do a good job of cleansing at the end of the day. So it is a very wrong thing to leave mascara, eyeliner, false lashes on overnight. At the end of the day, we should remove them and cleanse with our makeup remover, the cleanser that we have in Neolife, and thereby make sure that when we are going to sleep, our eyes are well cleaned. Otherwise, what can happen is that those glands which are in the eyelids that are supposed to keep our eyes moisturized and cleansed or lubricated will become clogged. And when they are clogged, our eyes are going to become dry and irritated because they are not getting the cleansing and the lubrication that they require. And this can be the first step towards blurry eyesight. That is, our eyesight is going to be less sharp. So that is a point. If you're aware of makeup, especially the makeup that is applied on the eyelids, then it is important that you take the cleansing step very seriously. Of course, in addition to makeup, there can be environmental irritants. It can be smoke, it can be dust, and such our eyes and can have an adverse effect on our eyesight. Then finally, we have also direct injuries that can happen to us. Let us say we work in a workshop and we don't put on goggles. It is important to put on eye protection if we are doing work that can lead to eye injury. So those are some of them. I'm sure you can come up with others, but now let me move on to our Neolife supplements that play an important role in eye health. And as I said, if you have reached a certain age where you maybe are noticing that your eyesight is not as sharp as it used to be, I think before we reach that stage, we should habitually take these supplements that support our eyesight, because there are supplements that support many other aspects of our health. And so our eyesight are also being included. And as you might probably imagine, the first one on the list is omega-3 salmon oil, because as we know, it helps to resolve inflammation in our bodies and will resolve the problems related to that. For example, dry and irritated eyes. And it also helps in the making of eye tissue. So these omega-3 fats are actually important in the manufacturing of eye tissue. And we know omega-3 is also good for our brain, because remember I said our brains and our eyes are two levels of the same house. The brain is upstairs, the eyes are downstairs. The next one is carotenoid complex, another very, very important supplement to protect our eyes from free radical damage and also to slow down the aging of our eyes so that we have good eyesight for a longer period of time. So illnesses like macular degeneration are the result of the aging of our eyes and our lenses. So by using carotenoid complex, we are going to actually support and protect our eyes and keep them healthy for our lifetimes. Next, I have vitamin B complex, also very important for protecting our eyes from degenerative illnesses of the eyes, for example, cataracts, and again, macular degeneration. So B complex also playing an important role here. In addition to that, we have zinc, which is another important supplement for eye health. It helps with healing any internal injuries. So for example, if maybe you have had a high blood pressure and there has been some damage to the blood vessels there, supplements like chelated zinc and vitamin C will be playing an important role in the healing of internal wounds. if maybe as a result of some injury to your eyes, you have got some problem, maybe you can see your eyes are bloodshot or have a permanent bloodshot place somewhere, it could be that there's some injury to your eye. And by you using chelated zinc and vitamin C, you can actually help with the healing of those injuries. Of course, as I said, we should avoid injury to our eyes because they are very delicate, and if they are injured, if there's a direct injury, it might not be possible for our eyelids to protect as much. So if we know that there is a danger for this, we should always wear eye protection. Let us say if you are mowing grass or if you're working in a workshop or things like that. Then the other one is vitamin A plus D, also another helpful and protective supplement that we have in Neolife. This will protect us from eye strain, especially if we work under poorly lit condition. Maybe we are a student. So for example, I remember when we were students in rural Kenya, what used to happen is that sometimes we were behind on our studies, and maybe you'll use a candle, very poor light, to study because you need to study extra to get on top of your revision and things like that. If children do this habitually or adults also, then we can have eye strain. And one of the things that helps with this is vitamin A plus A and D. Also, this vitamin helps to protect us against night blindness. So that is where we are not able to see well at night, because we can't see in the dark, but we should be able to see well enough to drive at night, and so on. So vitamin A plus D also very important. And finally, another one I had mentioned before is vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. It is also very protective for the reason that it is an antioxidant, and it also is very helpful in maintaining healthy eye tissue. The eyes have got membranes and delicate tissues in them, and these type of tissues are usually well maintained by having enough vitamin C in our dietary program. So if, let's say, you have got allergies or your child has allergies, which makes their eyes itchy and they keep on scratching and rubbing their eyes, then using vitamin C and or flavonoid complex will actually help with this. And you can also apply aloe vera gel to soothe the irritated eye. Of course, it is important to get to the background of what is causing the allergy, if possible, to avoid it. So I see that the time is running out there, but I just want to run through some of the maybe foods and lifestyle things that we can do to support our eyes, healthy eyes. So there are certain foods that are especially important in our diet, because remember, our supplements are always supposed to go hand in hand with good dietary measures. So one is the pink foods, which are pinkish. So let's say fish, which has pink flesh, like salmon fish. Maybe salmon fish might be too expensive for many of us. There are other seafoods which are pink, like the shrimps and the crayfish. I know our brothers and sisters in Lagos and coastal places can find access to shrimps and crayfish. These are very useful for nutrients that support eyesight. In addition to that, egg yolks are very nutritious with the nutrients that support our eye health. Then plant foods like sweet potatoes, the ones which are yellow inside, are good, together with carrots and such like fruits and vegetables. The bright orange ones will be supportive of our eye health. Healthy fats, such as those we find in olive oil, avocados, and so on, will be also helpful for supporting our healthy eyes. Spending time in the sun, 1 to 3 hours. This is especially important for children. And this is because it has been noticed and research has supported it, that children who spend between 1 to 3 hours will avoid developing short-sightedness and needing glasses. This was done in some Asian countries where there was almost like an epidemic of children needing glasses for short sight. Once they started allowing the children to spend some hours during the school time in the sun so that they refocus their eyes, they found that they were able to avoid this problem of poor eyesight. So for our own benefit, we should make sure that our children spend time during the day in the sun or outside, where they can take advantage of our very sunny continent of Africa. This should actually be something we can easily incorporate, even if it's just that after the children come from school, we encourage them to play outside. Because sometimes we get this habit of insisting that the children come from school and go straight to doing their homework. I think a better plan is to allow them to spend some time playing outside, so that they support the various aspects of our health that benefit from time spent outdoors in the sun and exercising and so on. Then I already mentioned avoid those harmful foods that I think I mention them every time, so you already know them very well. So the junk foods, the sugary foods, the overprocessed and so on, they only lead to problems. And finally, the last point I want to leave you with is maybe if you have an eye test chart, the kind they use in the optometrist's office, it's useful to have one so that you can be checking how your eyesight is doing once in a while, maybe every 6 months or every 1 year, just to see if you can still see as well as you did before. And if you notice any problems, then you know what to do, because we have talked about the supplements, we have talked about the lifestyle, and we have talked about the dietary additions that can be supportive of our eyes. I had a few questions about illnesses related to eyesight, but I think I'll carry those to our next Q&A, which will be not long from now. But for now, let me wish you all the best evening, and thank you very much for having spent this time with me. I hope that the session has been of great benefit to you, because we know that our eyes are extremely important for the quality of life. And also to spare a word that if we have brothers and sisters, relatives around us who have difficulties related to our eyesight, to be supportive and helpful by passing on this information and assisting them in any way that we are able to do. So for now, let me hand you over to Pascal, who is not here with me this time, but very far away near the Great Lake Victoria, where he will be spending a few days with our distributors there. But from Pretoria, here at our home, I want